And now it's time for our short history of wealth and power. For millennia, many humans lived as shepherds in nomadic tribes following the migrations of their herds. Horsemen first appeared somewhere in the north of China. One bright sunny day, many thousands of years ago, a horseman rode out of the hills and up to a shepherd leader overseeing his flock.
Good day, shepherd. Those are some mighty beautiful sheep you have there. Tell me, have you ever encountered any trouble tending such beautiful sheep so deep in the wilderness?
No. We've been leading our lives like this for generations, and we've never experienced any trouble. We get along quite fine.
Interesting, because it really is very dangerous to have such beautiful sheep so deep in the wilderness. There are so many perils, something could so easily happen to them. Fortunately for you, I own this land, and for a small fee I could easily provide protection with my horse and club, but without this protection, I warn you, watch those sheep carefully.
If the shepherd refused, a few sheep would mysteriously disappear each night until he agreed to pay for protection while trespassing on the horseman's land. This is where we got all notions of ownership and personal property. Land was worth owning because, at that time, all money was live money. Cows, goats, sheep, pigs, wealth you could actually eat. With the development of deep-bellied ships, international trade became the most profitable of all enterprises. Great land barons underwrote the building of enterprisers' ships with their cattle or other real wealth turned over to moneylenders as collateral. If the ship came back, both realized a great gain. The banker was paid and the cattle returned. But during the voyage, in the interim, the cattle had had calves, or kind, and this became the banker's earned share. Interest, payable in kind. In around 1500 BC, the Phoenicians began trading with so many people that from mere convenience, they shifted their trading strategy from carrying cattle to carrying metalled money. And though the money didn't give birth to little monies, the idea of earned interest persisted. The interest was deducted from the original money value, fundamentally depreciating the capital equity of the borrower. And this is where banking became an entirely different kind of game, one which persists until this day. Our money put safely in the bank is in reality loaned out within seconds at interest rates payable to the banker that are higher than the rates paid to our accounts. What we know of as inflation is in reality the deliberate deflation of our buying power. In 1600, Queen Elizabeth I and a few intimates founded the East India Company.
Exercising my royal privileges, I shall grant this company limited liability.
If the ship was lost, the backers would lose their money, but would not be held accountable for the lives of the sailors who were drowned. The concepts of limited liability and incorporation constitute merely, for ages uncontested, legal judgments upheld royal decrees, favoring big money capitalism over the vast majority of the poor. The East India Scheme would soon have the aggregate of profiteers and pirates known as the British Empire win first mastery over the world's supply lines. It is important to note that while the British Empire lost the American Revolution, the power structure behind it did not lose the war, and in fact swiftly moved much of its capital into the new economy. The most visible entity was, of course, the East India Company, whose flag just happened to have 13 red and white horizontal stripes, with a blue rectangle in the upper left-hand corner. In 1805, the British won the Battle of Trafalgar, officially making them the first empire in history on which the sun never set. Working for the British, Thomas Malthus was the first human in history to have access to a world-around set of statistical data. He concluded that while world population was increasing at a geometrical rate, life support production was increasing only at an arithmetical rate, and proclaimed a fundamental inadequacy of life support to be inherent in our planet Earth.
Pray all you want, it will do you no good. There is no more.
Of course, Malthus could not have envisioned the computer, the airplane, wireless, all the trends of ephemeralization, or doing more with less that would swiftly nullify his conclusions. Nevertheless, the notion of scarcity has been the foundation of all economic action, intention, and study ever since. With the great crash of 1929, the capitalist banking system was finally shown to be what it was: money empty. Faced with no other option, the great American corporations were socialized under the New Deal to prevent the house of cards from falling. The army of Wall Street lawyers then realized that if the companies kept an undistributed surplus and refused to acknowledge their socialized status, this would legally certify that capitalism had not died, despite its banking system's failure. 20 years later, the corporations had grown healthy and fat from World War II subsidies. The lawyers saw the time was right to cut loose all the controls of the New Deal. They began swiftly moving the corporations out of America to the any legally propitious elsewhere in the half-century since America has become completely bankrupt, and all its would-be democratic government can do is sway to the pressures of the powerful corporate lobbies. Nothing could be more pathetic than the role that has to be played by the president, whose power is approximately zero. The lawyers had also realized something momentous, that in the now 99.9% invisible reality of science, know-how was everything. We could do so much with so little that land properties were no longer of any value. So capitalism set about dumping all physical properties and monopolizing all strategic metaphysical properties. The post-World War II decision by the lawyers to start a World War III had two objectives: A, to keep capitalism in business, and B, to destroy socialism by diverting the USSR's productivity from livingry to weaponry so as to prove that socialism could not feed its people. To facilitate this war in an entirely cold manner, the lawyers invented the CIA, or capitalism's invisible army.
We, Fortune 5, hunt steal kudos and credit from everyone. Be it life checking or savings dead, we need their dough for dividend bread.